約1年ぶりの配信となりました。こちらのゲームはフィンチ家で起こったおかしな出来事だけかな、っていうゲームをやっていきたいと思います。実はこのゲーム、プライベートでやったことあるんですよ。それも本当約1年ぶりという状態なので、一応全部こう開いてはいるんですけど、ニューゲームでやっていきたいと思います。セーブデータを削除します。どうぞ。フィンチ家の奇妙な屋敷で起きたこと。奇妙な屋敷で起きたことだ。私の声は入ってるかな？一人称視点で進むゲームですね。
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
とりあえずこそで始まりよーってませだよ。
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
家の半分は立ち入りが許されていなかった。
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
7年前の請求書。それはもう、そうそう、本当覚えてない。
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
ルイス・リーさんのお葬式以来、戻ってきたのは初めてだ。水とかめっちゃ綺麗なんですけど、ただいま癒し動画を発信しております。いや、いいっすね。
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked.
鍵を残してくれたけど、どこを開けるのかわからない。
Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
そもそもね、そもそもね、家に謎があること自体珍しいと思うんです。
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
ほんと歩きでしか来れないもんね。野生動物。
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it.
相続したのに戻ってくるとは思わなかった。相続したのにね。
But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
見てこの違法建築。どう考えてもこれは違法建築でしょう。
The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
どこ見ても違法建築だよね。見てよこれ。なんだと思うでしょこれ。確 確かね、
I asked Edie once about the dragon in the pond. She said it had killed her husband. I was 6. It seemed like an odd joke to me even then.
これね、滑り台なんですよ、確か。その滑り台に殺されかけたって言うんですよ。ところで、まあ、もうすぐ日付は変わると思うんですが、ハロウィンですね。
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
まあ、こんな違法建築地は続かないよね。ミスシング、行方不明。お腹に子供がいる？私これ気づかなかったんだけど。妊娠してるもしかして。この主人公。ありゃ、自分の姿
Now, as a
なかったわ。
17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
そりゃ恐れるわな、こんな家じゃな。ちなみに私こっちを見るの実は初めてなんですよ。
I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
開かないっていうね。
Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
で、そっか、私、プライベートで会った時は私、正面玄関から行かなかったんだ。しょっぱなからね、こっちから行っちゃったの。で、ここじゃなくて、いい音。
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
そりゃな、大人になってからじゃ辛いよな。いいよな、こういうさ、工房的なのさ、欲しいよね。っていうのをね、実は私これ前にね、動画を撮りながらね、プレイしてたんですよ。
The power had been turned off the night we left.
そりゃそうだ。
For the first time in years,
久しぶりに我が家
I
へ。
felt like I was home.
見て、これって船のさ、火事だよね。お、ターボさん、こんばんは。おー、ありがと
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
う。記憶の抜け殻。ほんと生活、
Like how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot.
そう、生活感がね、そのまま残った状態で、
Or how after Louis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
生活感がこう思いっきり残った状態でいなくなってるんよ。うわ、こんな酒感がいっぱい。どっちから行こうかな。どうぞこっち行くか。
The table was still a wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
爆弾が残っ、そうね。だってなんか食べてた後あるもんね。オイルヒーター。結構なんか海外の家ってこのオイルヒーターがあるイメージ。海。
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth.
そうね。違法建築すぎて家に家がくっ
Even
つ
the
いてるもん
fireplace
ね。
had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house after it sank.
沈んだ最初の家で縁がああ、吸い込まれてた。家が沈むって不思議な話よね。あら、かわいい。こうやって見ると、ほんといろんなものが置いてあるのよね。あ、このね、右下、これ、ここだけのやつ私も持ってる。で、私、これも好きだけど、こっちも好き。これさ、あれでしょ？なんだっけ、ジャイアントミリピートだっけ？こっちがスタンピードだもんね。なかなかいい趣味をお持ちで。
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
「この家にはいろんなところに物語がある」ん？
My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
お兄さんが行方不明になったのね。
A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night.
これ不思議でしょ？なんか知んないけどね、部屋がね、
Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
部屋の中覗けるんですけど、すべてのこの個人の部屋がこうやって確かすべてではないか、ほとんどの部屋がこうやってね、開かなくなっちゃってるので、今行けるのは2階とそこの地下だけなのね。ってことで上行きます。これあれだよね、足が悪い人のためのエレベータ
ー。After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms.
ー。
Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
お母さんの仕業だったんだっけ？じゃあその流れでこっち行こうか。ちら。
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
ほう。
As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
そんなさ、トイレとかお風呂にもつけなくてもいいと思わない？グレゴリー。これ確か
My grandpa Sam
半
spent
分の
7
お
years
部屋。
sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
なかなか素敵な感じのお部屋だった覚えが。
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
バーバラね。確かこのバーバラって子が、あれなのよ、女優さんなんだよね。
Edie's father, Odin, built the original house.
オーディン。バーバラ。
Barbara was a child star for 2 years, until America grew out of it.
アメリカが飽きるまで。そうよね。飽きられたらおしまいだもんね。
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
3階を封じた。あとは、行けるところは、まだこっち側見てないよね。ここ入れるけど、待って。
Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947. I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
魚が書いてある。
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
これ使えるかな。回ったよ。ここだっけ。
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
こんなところにさ、隠し扉があるとは思わないじゃん。
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
ミルトンがここにいた。にゃん。
But I had no idea what was behind that door.
ああ、コンパニアンプリが切れた。
Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
ちょっと待ってね。今、皆さんのコメントとか、そういうのをコンパニオンアプリを通して見てんのね。セカンドスクリーンで。よし、つながった。OK。
I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage.
スナネズミを飼ってたんだっけ。
Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting.
ああ、そう、なんか子供部屋をものすごく作る。これクラゲ？袋、おろ。
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
これはね、モリーの記憶。
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
食べちゃうの？待って、こっち行きたい。かわいい。クリストファー。この子クリストファーってのね。
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
さすがにね。あかんね。 車内廊下の方向かってみようか。
Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
これトイレ行きたかったらどうすんだろうね。えな、朝言われてもお腹空いて眠れん。
I kept eating and eating.
食べ続けた。それはよろしくないと思う。トイレ。
I ate a lot of things that night.
それ食べられるの？
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly,
お、
I was a cat.
にゃん。確かね、行き方があったはず。どうやって行くんだっけかな。間違えた。三角じゃない。三角押しちゃダメね。了解。丸押してもダメ。×を押してもダメ。あ、これいいのか。
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared. Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
よっからしょう。
I jumped and I almost got her.
逃げられた。
I could tell she was getting really tired.
どこ行った？
Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
右の方にいる。
I gobbled her up.
はっ、うわ
And suddenly, I was an owl.
ー、フクロウになってた。
First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
不思議よね。
Rabbits.
ウサギいた。くっそ。取ったぞー。
I imagined imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons.
ただいま大変
And I didn't shoot one
見苦しいシーンが流れておりました。
to find something bigger.
これが弱肉強食。もっと大きいのを探しに行った。
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating.
生きてるのを感じる。
Suddenly, I was a shark.
ためになって、それはどうしろと。待って。
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever.
安定しない。待って。すんごい安定しない。
I wanted fat, juicy seals.
捕まえ
I
た。
tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
そう。見つけた。すんごい安定しない。
Grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
ヘビ。そう、お腹空いてんの。なんかさっきからさ、アプリがさ、切れるんだけど、Wi-Fi が切れてるな。
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
I 怪物か、ヘビじゃなくて。
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
ある意味ホラーだよね。別にホラー、このゲーム自体はホラーゲームじゃないんだけどね。
Also, I didn't.
だってお腹空いてるんだもんね。
After the last passenger, I was still hungry.
まだお腹が
Across
空
the
いて
water,
る。
I smelled something new, something I had to have, so I swam towards it.
ちょっと体勢変えます。なんか取れた。これどこについてたやつだ。なくても大丈夫？大丈夫か。
I slithered onto the sand and the good smell went into an old pipe.
Oh, パイプ？どこのパイプ？トイレ？どこのトイレ
？I got closer and closer.
モリーの部屋。
All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have. This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
あ、モリーが猫の名
I
前
spent
だ。
a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room.
ひいおばあちゃんの部
We
屋。
got along, and it was a good place to hide from my mom.
うーん。
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
滑り台。池にあった滑り台です。もともとはこういう形をしておりました。それが崩れてそう、これ。
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity.
うん。
I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long, long time. Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
モグラ男ね。後でこの人の話も出てきます。鳥かごがいっぱい。あれ、あ、椅子に引っかかったのか。なんて動けないんだろうと思った。
Her room was like a museum.
そうね。
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune.
Hmm? これだけだよね。あとなんかあった？あ、ここか。
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
ピンク色のバスルーム。
It was a pretty big trace.
ほら、ここについてんのよ。さっきの覗いたやつが。 全部この鍵で開くんだもんな。すごいよな。
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
本当、忍者で
Sven
も
gave
住んで
Sam
まし
an
たか
old
っていう。
camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
忍者でも住んでるんですかっていう家だよね。よいしょ、よいしょ。よいしょ、よいしょ。はあ。この部屋素敵だよね。半分ずつ使ってるんだけどさ。
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin. And that he never talked about him.
こんばんはです。お元気、元気っちゃ元気。どうよ、この感じ。こうやっ
I
て
guess my
さ、
grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
この宇宙船的な、こんな感じ、素敵よね。
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
足怪我してんの。ブーランブーラン。
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom.
マッシュルームを食べるけど、知る。
At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam, come. Dinner's ready. Coming.
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that,
よいしょい。よいしょい。
I'm not gonna tell you again.
maybe if the wind hadn't picked
あ、
up,
ギブスが取れた。
then maybe he'd still be here.
ほー。お葬
I
式
think
場だ
he'd
よ、
already
こ
made
れ。
up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother.
あれさっきギブスなかったよね。もう、この恐ろしい状態を見ろ。あ、回った。
The day he made up his mind to fly, and he did.
飛んじゃったの。そして彼は亡くなってしまったの。
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
そう、子供の目線だからね、今の。私はどちらかというと、バーバラのお話。
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
でしょうね。ここもなんか橋っぽいのがあったのかな。さて、どういう仕掛けだよって。よっこらせ。ほんとここは忍者屋敷かってね。はあ。
The passages were a pretty tight fit.
かぼちゃが見え
They'd
る。
obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
ところが私はこっちに行きたい。バーバラの部屋。
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
うん。クジャクスターってイメージが。一度もてはやされてしまって、
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
ね、落ちていくだけだもんね。この子の人生は。
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
そう、バーバラが殺されたんだよ。
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
なるほど。
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned.
僕は戻
So
らない。
Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
ちなみに、私がなぜバーバラの話をしたいとったのか、そう、この音楽のせいなのだよ。
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
兄さんヤンケーっていうね。確かここなんか実績なかったっけかな。まあいいや。
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
そうここで 怪我したんだよね、お父さんがね。この辺とかも持ってこいよと思うんだけど、テーブルなんか届き手に入れたけど見えづらいよな。そう、この音楽いいでしょ。ハロウィンだよ、ハロウィン。ハロウィンの曲が流れちゃうよ。ハロウィンのメインテーマが流れちゃうよ。
Oh dear!
Bash!
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your screen.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you...
She threw him out, but she kept something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still
Con
holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
さっきからニュースでさ、怪物の格好をしたやつだがどうのこうのって言うとったやん。一瞬ドキッとするよね、この猫の目といいさ。かぼちゃやで。
Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any
てか
suspicious
鋼の
activity.
鍵爪。
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. The funny was, he couldn't get enough of Barbara.
手に鍵爪って言うとどうしてもさ、フレディが浮かぶでしょ。
She played her part beautifully.
それな。
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges grow. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
いや、こういう時くらい走れよってな。それはいないから。
The hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was...
Ding dong.
At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
You were wonderful. The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard. But that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her.
向こうの中にあった分しか耳しか残さなかった。
A real eerie tale.
不気味な物語。はい、ということでバーバラは殺されてしまいましたとかおしまい。
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
なかなか悲惨な死に方をしてるでしょ、彼女も。さあ、なぜまたここに戻るのかって。
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
ここから出るためさ。さてさて、さっきので分かった地下への生き方ですが、なんだ今の。これで鍵を取ってここに行くのさ。ここはなんだろうね、ランドリールーム？でもなんでランドリールームにチェスじゃねえや。ビリヤード番号置いてあるのかはわからん。
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
まあそうだね。錆びた金属とかが入っちゃうとね、よろしくないからね。風が強いな。
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages.
荷物を持って。
I thought maybe she was hiding presents.
It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
そう、ここ。隠し扉になってたの。
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could.
地下の貯蔵庫。
If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
うん。ボルさ、
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's
こ
what
の
kept
タ
me
イプの
sane.
やつのがさ、綺麗に開くんだよね。
Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything.
また桃缶を開けなきゃいけないのか。
Even a monster
私は
on the other side of the door starts to feel normal.
今ね、
Almost friendly.
コントローラー、スティックをね、グリグリグリグリ回してんの。桃をコクコクコクコクコクと。
And then one day, everything just
またか。
stopped.
止まった。
Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid.
何日間桃食べんだよってな。
It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting.
待つのは終
I
わりだ
have to leave. Well, I still can.
よっこらせっと。あらやだ、Wi-Fi が切れたわ。はあ、なんかね、うちの Wi-Fi が最近ちょっとよろしくないのよね。で、こうセカンドスクリーンでさ、開くじゃん。そうするとさ、消えちゃうんだよね。これいっそのことさ、自分の配信をさ、出しとくか。少々お待ちくださいまし。はいはい。よいしょ、自分の配信をオンにしとこう。自分の配信をつけとこう。
I know it's out there somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me.
あ、壊した。
Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food.
あの地震はね、この線路
I don't mind if I
線路
only have
の
a year left.
上をね、電車が通ってたからなのだよ。
Or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
はい。そして電車にひかれて死んでしまいましたとさ。おしまい。はぁ。
Walter died when I was
悲惨だよね。
6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here. I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me.
よっこらせ。よっこいしょ。
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding.
ちなみにここ
I
ゴ
don't
ミ捨
want
て
to
場
make
な。
the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else.
もうここには誰もいないからね。
But now I'm worried the stories themselves
電
might
車
be
も
the
通ってない
problem.
んだよ。
Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real.
Mm, なんか
I don't know if I should even be writing this.
プレステ4自体はさ、直結でつなげちゃってるからさ、あれ
Maybe
だ
it'd be
けど、
better if all this just died with me.
スマホとかは Wi-Fi だからさ、
But I thought you should know about your family.
これ不気味だよね、これ。これ。
And the history you're a part of.
吸い込まれてった。ここにもね、ちゃんと物語があったんだよ。この海岸にも。実を言うと。あっちでいいんだよな。
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now.
うん。途方に暮れてはいる。なんとなくでしかね、内
I
容
think
覚えてない
people
の。
in these stories believed them, for what that's worth.
明かりが見える。そうなの。景色とかすっごく綺麗なんだけど、なんとなく不気味な感じがね、さっきから。っていうか、マジでこの人妊婦だよね。
And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
Hmm?
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house?
そうね。
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils are mine, and 2 had been my fault.
手前のこれがネズミたち。ワンちゃんとかの猫ちゃんとかのお墓、ウサギとかいろんな動物飼ってたんだな。
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
ここはほらバーバラとかのポルター、家族の墓。
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away.
景が綺麗やね。普通とは想像できないよね。だって見よよ、こんな違法建築だぜ。
She could see it poking out of the water at low tide.
あそこ。
Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
昔の家。おお。これここだけだよな。
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better. She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone.
遺体が見つか、そうだよね、行方不明になってるって言ったもんね。ミッシングって。
There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself.
But
looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
危ねえよってね。危ねえよって誰か突っ込んでくれ。どっから上がるんだっけかな。確かね、降りるんじゃないもん。降りるんじゃないよね。上がるんだよね。確かね、上がれるところがあった。ここから上がるんだよね。
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common.
この家、迷子になりそうだよ。
They were both pretty intense. Instead of hiding from death, to meet it.
強な。落ちそうで怖いよ。にゃん。こっちか。サムじいさん。
Dawn, I promise. You'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
Aw. You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though.
写真を撮るゲームになってます。
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
Hold still while I take a picture of you.
I definitely will. Hey!
That's a keeper.
Nothing quite like being outside. I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Don. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died. Dad!
Good eyes, Don. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
何を撮るんだ？ここか。
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Now keep yourself squared up, elbows down, like we practiced. Whenever you're ready. Great shot, Dawn!
Oh!
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay? Sorry, Dawn, just gotta reset the timer.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Ah! はい。ということがありました。
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
あと1、2、3、4、5、6人、7人か。さあ、どんどん行こう。ほんとこの家の中どうなってんだよってな。
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
子供部屋だね。これはね、
Dear Kay, do you
とて
remember
も
the way
ね、
Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone?
悲惨だった。
Something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
ウェ
he saw things the rest of us don't.
おちゃん。
Gregory, it's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello?
これが全ての悲劇の始まりだったってね。
I wonder what he saw. His world was like. He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was he saw. Sure made him happy.
名前も全部戻しちゃう。あそこか。
I know how silly it sounds. That I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel her slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
さあ、何が起こってしまうか。なんとなく察しはついたかな。こういうことだよ。
About the world he saw. There's so much I don't understand. About Gregory. About everything.
なんでこのグレゴリーが死んだのかなんてよく分かったよね。
Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
排水口にね、詰まっちゃったの。この子は1歳で亡くなってるの。
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart.
この絶妙な、絶対こんな操作できない。あ、トミさんありがとう。
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger.
Come here. 中指立つ。誰が行くかって。
The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
もっと大きくっていうだけ避難しとけばよかったのにっていうやつね。
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind,
ホラーゲームではないのよ。
But I didn't. Until we found you.
フィンチ家で何が起こったのか。なぜフィンチ家の人
She
間
never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me
人間
Gus.
が死んだのはなぜかっていうのを解き明かしていくゲームです。何かに追われたりとかそういうのは一切ございません。よいしょ。
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died.
屋根裏に引っ越すってどうよ。
At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
よいしょっと。あー疲れた。これをミステリー的な感じ。
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
そうね、すがるものが必要だったのね。
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. Louis was born a year later.
Please, yeah.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go.
結構ね、こう
I'm
いう
sure
系
Edie
の
was
ゲーム
happy
好
to have her
き。
back.
探索ゲーっていうか、こういうゲーム他にもい
The
ろい
house
ろ
had to
や
get a
った
little
んだけ
bigger,
ど、
but Edie was used to that.
これは結構ね、やっててね、悲しくなってきたりする。
Almost normal.
まるで小学校のようだよね。
But it didn't last. beginning at the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
違法建築の上の方だよ。
After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
そうね。ミルトンは行方不明になってる子だからね。よっこらせ。どっこいしょ。はあ。ここなかなか面白い作りしてんだよね。ここ布団じゃん。ここに乗って、こうやって引っ張って上に上がる人力のエレベーターみたいな。行方不明見ると。
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
パラパラ漫画の中でパラパラ漫画をするんだ。焦るでしょ。そう、どっか行っちゃったの。ほんとこれだけなんだよ、ミルトンは。どこ行っちゃったんだろうっていう。
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
見つからなかったからドアを封じてしまった。
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
この周り一周してみようか。まあ特に何もないんだけどね。シャワーで進めないっていうね。さっきはまっすぐ来たから、今度はこの上、この違法建築の書いてるもののところに行くよ。
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
このね、なんでこのとこに船があんだよってな。
Everyone always told me to stay out of Lewis's room, except Lewis.
Exit. おっと。椅子がある。よっこらせ。
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
これはあれですね。まあ、一応水タバコなんですけど、まあ、彼はそういう人です。はい。ピシー。バランスボード。ちなみに私も今これでバランスボード座ってます。慣れると楽しいよ。
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
私も普通のこと言えないんだけどね、それを言ったらさ。
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it.
なかなかね、難しいんだよ。
He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth.
ね、右手で鮭を切って、左手で
and toads.
この迷路をね、突き進んでいくっていうね。
And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head.
鮭が切れた。
But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then.
立体にすんじゃねえ。
Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis.
そう、魚の頭をね、鮭はね、直近しながらね、その映像を動かしてんの。
It seemed very promising at first.
わかる？この薬のせいでだんだんとね、現実ね、
On the edge of a city he named
その境目がね、わからなくなってくるの。
He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor, and he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering.
某配管工のゲームを思い出すよね。鳩の上げ方はね。
It became a game for him.
あ、まだ続くんか、鮭。
He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery.
工場が帰宅するのを忘れ
Even
ま
as
し
his
た。
mother pleaded with him,
どういうこと？
part of Lewis kept sailing on.
え？どういうこと？
In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen.
美しい王子。
The queen was on her own quest for
道を探してる。
radiant rainbows.
おお。あ。あ。
He followed the sound of her
あ。こっち。
silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination.
Oh. はあ、なんもないとここだから。
But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him. Began to forget the world we know.
もうパッと見わかるね。ここが彼のロッカーですね。ゲーム機があったり、例のこの方があったり、葉っぱ。
I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting me. his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head.
はあ神戸を垂れることだよ。
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
薬を取りすぎたのよ、彼は。
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
薬ダメ、絶対。
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
自分の部屋に来た。
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sailed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out.
とてつもない引き潮だ、引き潮。
It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life.
これから何が起こってしまうかはなんとなく分かるよね。
I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car.
すごいよね。私を車で引きずってきたからね。
I never saw Great Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the band came to pick her up, but she was already gone.
どっか行っちゃったの？おばあちゃん。
After that, we moved around a lot.
あちこち引っ越して。
We both tried to make the best of it.
よくこれやる子いるよね。海外の出てくる。
A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
なんかいろいろ見えちゃいけないものが見えてきました。マイクロが見えた。まあいいや。マイクロが見えた。はい。これがフィンチ家が滅んでしまった原因でございます。原因というか中でございます。まあこんな感じのね、本当お話をずっとたどっていく謎を解くっていうか、謎解きに近いものを感じながらどんどん先に進んでいくっていうちょっと特殊な感じのゲームでした。ちょっと待って、これが私ちょっと兄さんは隠れてて欲しかったな。もうちょっと隠れてて欲しかったな。よいしょ。これやったのも、このゲーム自体をやったのがほんとちょうど1年くらい前なんですよ。なんでね、まあところどころしか覚えてないんですけど、この登場人物が死んでしまう場面なんかは結構覚えてて、ほんとなんか悲惨な死に方をしてるですよね。サーモンのさ、頭を切ってたカッターで首ちょんぽとか、電車にひかれて亡くなるとか、もういいや、なんかこの辺につけとこう。よっ、ダメでした。落下死とかね、あとこのモンスターの集団っていう、まあぶっちゃけて言うとハロウィンの仮装のやつたちの襲われるみたいな感じですよね。そういうのとかね、私にとってはこれ一種の呪いなんじゃないかって本当思うくらいの悲惨な死に方を皆さんはしておりますよね。まあこんな感じのね、ちょっと販売当初から気になってて、このゲームを手にしたのはちょうどセールになってる時に手にした、セールになってたんだっけかな、フリープレイになってたんだっけかな、確かね去年なんだよこれやったの。その時もちょうど私が他のゲームの関係でマイケルにハマってテーマソングを流れた時に、その時もね一応動画は撮って残ってるんですけど、すんごいはっちゃけたテンション上がっちゃったとかそこあったりとかね、いろいろしてるんですよ。他にも私こういった探索をする系のゲームってやってるんで、もしねまたこういう感じのゲームをする機会があったら やってみたいと思います。で、明日、時間すると今日になりますね。もうハロウィン実況ということで、あれは一応ホラーゲームなのかな、サスペンスなのかな、ちょっとやってみたいゲームがあったので、それをやっていこうと思ってます。ということでね、いつもよりもだいぶ長い時間やっていきましたが、久しぶりの実況でした。いろいろ生活環境変わって、仕事も変わって、忙しくてなかなかできなくて、ね、今後もね、こうやって余裕があるときにプレイできたらなと、こうやって配信できたらなと思ってます。平日はちょっと難しいので、できたとしても金曜日の晩とか土曜の晩あたりにできたらなっていうのをちょっと思いながら、少しずつ復帰していこうかなと思ってます。ということで、見に来てくださった方々ありがとうございました。これからも超不定期になると思いますが、しょうがない見てやるかって方は来てくださると嬉しいです。それではまた次回の配信まで。さらばじゃ。バイバイ。この切るまでがね、お仕事ね。